Yeah, so after I finished the build, the guitar was completely unplayable. Even with the action set really high, most of the notes would choke out because the frets were so uneven. Also, the fret sprout was so bad, it would literally cut my hand as I would play the guitar, so even if the frets were level, you still couldn't play it. To make things worse, it was impossible to intonate the guitar. I placed the bridge just a little bit too close to the neck. I kind of got around that by removing the springs from the bridge pins and pushing them all the way back. Although now I can no longer restring the guitar because the bridge pins are covering the string through holes. The good news is the electronics work fine, and there's actually no noise, even though I didn't shield the guitar in any way. So that's kind of good. The only thing is that I accidentally wired the pots the other way around, so to turn the volume up, you need to turn it counterclockwise instead of clockwise, which is a bit awkward. But yeah, after I finished the build, I thought like I won't be able to fix any of this, but it actually turned out pretty well. All right, so how did I fix all of this? Initially, I drilled pilot holes through both the neck and the body, which basically meant I couldn't tighten them both together. I also drilled right through the fretboard, so now I have two ugly holes around the 18th fret. Doesn't really affect playability though. So yeah, the first thing I did was just drill bigger holes through the body so the screws would go right through. That way I was able to tighten the neck to the body. Right, so the next step was to level the frets. I got a notched straight edge and a fret rocker from Amazon. I basically got the cheapest option that had decent reviews. I adjusted the truss rod using the straight edge until the neck was perfectly straight. Then I covered the fretboard with masking tape, which was extremely tedious and time consuming. Then I would use the fret rocker to go over every fret and mark any locations that were high. And then I would very gently move the beam back and forth until the Sharpie was gone. And then I'd go back with the fret rocker again and mark any frets that are still high, and I would repeat that until basically there were no high frets anymore. It took maybe an hour and a half altogether. Next step was to crown the frets and get rid of the fret sprout. I didn't have a crowning file. I just used a regular metal file, although it was much easier than I expected. I basically just filed the frets until they looked kind of round, and then filed the fret ends until they felt smooth to the touch. I did damage the fretboard quite a bit in the process. It looks pretty bad, but I don't think it affects the playability in any way. And then to finish it off, I used 600 grit sandpaper followed by some steel wool just to make the frets look smooth and shiny. Yeah, so when I put the guitar back together, there were still a few issues. Firstly, the fretboard offset from the body was a little bit too much. What that meant is that I had to set the bridge pins really high, which it just looked really weird, so I decided to route a deeper neck pocket. I measured the fretboard offset from the body on one of my other guitars, and I just routed it to match that. It was a bit tricky because the guitar body wasn't flat, so I had to clamp it between the table and two flat boards. And I decided not to use a template this time because I had kind of already messed up the neck pocket quite a bit. The next problem was with the nut. The string height at the nut was 3.6 millimeters, which is ridiculous. All my other guitars have about 2 millimeters. It meant that most notes on the first couple of frets were really sharp, and it was also very hard to play chords. I decided to just replace it with a better one. Getting it out was a pain. I tried carving it out with a blade. That didn't work. Then I just resorted to hitting most of it out with a hammer and just file the rest away. Yeah, I first got a Graphtec Stratocaster nut, but when it arrived, I realized it was way too small for this neck. It required a Les Paul uh, style nut, so I ended up installing a Les Paul bone nut. I basically just filed it to the appropriate height and just super glued it in place. Oh yeah, the smell, well, when filing a bone nut is very unpleasant. Anyway, uh, I still have a lot of work to do on the guitar. I'm gonna move the bridge down so that I can restring the guitar properly in the future. I was thinking of routing a bigger back cavity just to make the guitar a little bit lighter. I also think it would look better. I need to make a proper jack plate. I'll probably still make it out of wood, but I'll just try to make it a bit more precise. And yeah, I need to install both pickups and a pickup selector. But so far, it sounds great, plays great. I really have no complaints. I guess I'm either very lucky, or it just shows that with a proper setup, almost any guitar can sound and play okay.